very fortunate today to have a guest speaker. You may know the last name. It's Terrell. I have to peek into these. Mrs. Terrell is the Sexual Assault Prevention Response Coordinator, also known as the SARC. She works on HICM for the 15th wing. Is that correct? For the 15th wing? It's everybody. It's all Air Force. Anybody that needs anything taken care of. But it's a great brief. You're going to enjoy it thoroughly. Make sure you listen, ask questions if needed, and get your volunteer hat on. Okay. What do you think?
Oh, well, good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
All right, so maybe I should say at ease, relax. If I haven't had the opportunity to meet you, my name is Michelle Terrell, and I hail from the great state of Alabama, and I am a University of Alabama graduate, Roll Tide. Even though we didn't win the game, we still are the best team. I kept telling my husband, oh, you got to encourage me. I was so depressed after we lost to Ohio State. So I did serve in the military as a mental health officer and have worked for the Department of Defense for about 19 years. Of course, you know, my husband is an Auburn graduate, so I often tell him he married up and I made his life better. Julie, so I try to operate as his better half. So, of course, you know, I've had the opportunity in the military to do a variety of jobs. I've done mental health, I've done clinical director of alcohol and drug program, I've done EDIS, also was a SARC at Laughlin Air Force Base, and is privileged to serve as the SARC for all of the Air Force here in Hawaii. And just recently was named the PACAF Exceptional SARC of the Year. So, and really that's not to take credit for me. I have a great team. I have a great staff. And you all as leaders always remember that if you can have the best of ideas and the greatest of vision without a great team around you, it's just a null and effect. Even when this year, we've had a GAO visit audit. We've also had the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Air Force, all those people that I had a chance to brief. And I tell them leadership and command and those that work with you make the difference. So that's my leadership plug for today. All right, so we get a chance to talk about sex. Right? Yes, I got your attention. All right. So, and you see my slide up there. Anybody in here know what April is? There's an awareness month that happens in April. Does anybody know? Somebody say it. Say it out loud. Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Who said that? All right, I got to get out all my goodies, you know. Who said the answer? There you go. Stress ball and some blue turn colors for you, too. All right. I meant to lay it all out so you'll be able to choose whatever it is that you want. Yeah, just lay that out. All right, so April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and the Department of Defense, the theme they have is Eliminate Sexual Assault. Know your part, do your part. And so as I'm here, I want you to know that everyone has a part when we talk about preventing sexual assault. For the HICM, what I've chosen for the theme for the Air Force is respect, served, here. Give it, get it, and live it. All right? And so when we're talking about respect, when you have respect in relationships, we're going to be able to minimize some of that. All right, so let's get started. Next slide. All right, so just to let you know, sexual assault, even on a college campus, but in the military, all the way from the top, President Obama meets with what we call our sexual assault staff up there at the Pentagon on a monthly basis. That's how much he cares about preventing sexual assault in the military. I was just chosen for a conference in D.C., and I would tell you the Secretary of Defense personally came without reading off a piece of paper talking about how much this means to him, all right? You see, even in the college campuses. And the reason why they're emphasizing, if you don't know, in DOD, over 22,000 incidents of sexual assault. In the Air Force, we had over 3,000, and 43% of those incidents were male victims. So when I'm standing up here to talk to you, I'm not just talking about females being victims of rape and sexual assault. We're talking about taking care of all of our airmen in the military, as well as what we have right here. All right, so next slide. All right, so we got to know what is sexual assault, right? So you see all the goody stuff that I hear, cool shades, we got that fart stuff that you stick your finger in there and stuff, you know, so you have an opportunity to come up. So these right here that says, there are back scratches that say, keep your hands to yourself, you have to really earn that one, right? All right, so who can tell me what sexual assault is? Because I know y'all are smart, and some of y'all been in my class before. Who got it? Yes.
Manifest, Bravo Flight.
Yes.
Any unwelcome physical or non-physical actions that sexual harassment or sexually harass somebody else.
All right, let's give him one clap together. 1, 2, 3. All right, I love it already. Because you were so bold to ask the first question, we will give you a back scratch that says keep your hands to yourself. All right, so next slide. Here we go. And talking about what sexual assault, as he said, is an intentional sexual contact characterized by force. A lot of times we know there is not force that's going to be in there, all right? We always ask the person, did you kick, did you scream, did you bite, did you yell? Did you chew their nose off or anything like that? A lot of times it does not happen, you know, and none of us know how we're going to respond until we're in that situation. So if you are working with somebody that comes to you as a friend that might have been a victim, what you need to know is this is what I tell them. I say, sort of like my husband's a hunter, if you all don't know, just look at his truck, right? And it's like you're in the woods and a bear jumps out, right? This side over here is going to fight, and this side over here is going to flight, right? We call it fight and flight, right? And this in the middle is probably going to freeze, right? None of us really know how we're going to respond, right? You think you're going to beat up the bear, right? Yeah. And this side's like, I'm going to see if I can outrun it, but really we don't know. You might say, okay, should I freeze? Should I see if it's going to run or whatever? So here's what you want to tell that survivor if they're talking to you. You know what? If you lived in the survivor could come and talk to me about this right now, you made the best decision for you at that time. Because if you tried to fight me off, I might just become what? More aggressive. Right. I'm gonna become more aggressive. So I'm not sure how you're gonna respond. So a lot of times it might, all right? Threats, a lot of times intimidation. The other thing is the abuse of authority, especially if you all as future leaders. I teach at what we call the First Term Airman Center. And so I'm in there teaching the First Term Airman Center. And I said, hey, if you see Captain Spots hitting me on this big terrain feature called a mountain back here, right? Y'all know terrain features, that's good. They taught y'all geography. My husband never sits in my classes because he's a black man that would turn red. So they know he goes and hides because he's like, I'm gonna let her do her thing, right? As you can see, we're total opposites, right? Yeah. So I asked him, I said, how many of you all would go up to him and tell him, hey, sir, you shouldn't be doing that? How many of you all think all those young airmen would say, go up to the squadron commander or anybody and say that? You think they would?
I would.
You would. All right, we're going to see. That's because you're in a position to be a leader. But we talk about young airmen out of basic training where they've been taught this all the time. I walk in and teach and they're all like, that's not how it is. I'm not even in uniform, you know. You know, they still 10 years later scared of their drill instructors, you know. They're NCOs and they see the drill instructor and they have flashbacks, you know. So yes, most of them are not, except one boy. Where you from?
Air Force brat.
Air Force brat. What do you call home?
Alaska or Oklahoma.
Alaska or home. Because you're from Alaska, we're going to give you some fart stuff. Because you say you would stand up and make sure that you tell them. All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So the problem is not authorities. Some of you all are going to be an authority. It's when people abuse that authority, all right? And sometimes people do use that. We have reason why a lot of times people won't say anything is because we have what we call a chain of command, right? You all have a chain of command. And chain of command is a good thing. It is necessary to do the mission and carry out and go out and kill big and bad people. It's when people abuse that authority. And what we know is the higher people go up, the least likely people are to say anything to them, okay? And so what we have to do is learn to put things in check early. When they go back and you see colonels and chiefs and all, they didn't just wake up one morning and decide to throw their career away. What has happened is when they go back and OSI investigate, years ago it started off with little things and nobody put it in check and then it escalates to bigger things. So my challenge to you is put it in check, all right? Okay, or when the victim does not or cannot give consent. So sir, how many drinks can you drink and be able to give consent?
0.
Good answer. Yeah, give my hand. I thought she was gonna fall for it, you know. He's thinking, how many can I drink? They're watching you. You passed the test. Good job. Look, see, he's stressed. The ball is already changing colors. All right. So his answer when I teach FTAC, that's what they tell me too is you can't drink and have sex. So here's a question. I know you all are young. How many people in here know that people drink and have sex every day? You don't know that? You don't know that? Oh, yeah. You know that, right? Yeah, okay. So people do drink and have sex, all right? So here's a lot of times when they talk about the consent and when when they go to basic training and at the tech schools they teach them is, when we talk about consent and alcohol is, we know that tolerance comes with what? Say it out loud. Experiences, yeah, man, don't be scared. Here, take a water bottle. Pass it down. It comes with experience, right? So we know Captain Spots has a lot of experience, so he can drink 10 and still be able to give consent, right? Whereas Son Mitchell don't have that much experience, so about one, she's on top of the table turning flips. Right? Because the law says if I'm incapacitated, I'm unable to give consent to have sex, right? And so reason why they tell them is, I always tell people, you better count up the cost, all right? We know that, I tell them that consent is about respect. If you can't get it when they sober, definitely don't try to get it when they drunk, because we know that people use alcohol to take advantage of people, right? They tell the drunk person, hey, they towing your car out there, they run out there to get it and didn't even drive, right? Right? Yeah. That's how you get teabagged, they told me. I know you don't know what that is, do you? Okay. Those that's been in my class, she doesn't know what teabagging is, make sure you tell her. I didn't either. I learned from airmen. Like last year, I came here talking about dropping like it's hot, and they taught me twerking, tweaking, right? And so now when I do that demonstration, I tell them to twerk up here. When I bring up the guy and the girl, and I had one guy, he turned around and really twerked it really well. I was like, whoa, he didn't have anything to drink yet. So, yeah. The other thing, who knows what the age of consent is in Hawaii? The previous class can't answer. These young ones, what are y'all the new group? What's the age? 18? He said 14. You'll learn with me. I may not hear you clearly. Yes.
Are you factoring this close in age or no?
Both. You know what it is?
You know.
Okay. So how many of y'all say 14? How many of y'all say 15? How many people say 16? How many people say 17? How many people say 18? How many of y'all really don't know? All right, so it is 16, and as he talked about, it is factoring the age, so don't get excited, Captain Spots. Say, yeah, that's right. It's like, yeah, I can go get a young thing, right? No.
I love my wife.
Yeah, you love her, and she's a beautiful woman. She is awesome. She can show enough bake. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm trying to get back focused. All right. In that, there is also a 5-year range, and that's important that you all know, but because you out there and you might be meeting young ladies or young men, and you want to make sure that you know what that age is, because I had someone that went to jail for that. Next slide. All right, I need to go faster. Understanding consent. Consent is not cooperation that results from force. If force or fear is in the room, consent is not in the room, all right? Because the person don't really feel like they don't have a choice, okay? Consent is something that should be given freely. Threat or fear, there's no consent. Failure to verbally or physically resist due to fear, all right? Implied by prior consent. Do you have a pen? Come on.
It's on my paper.
Who has a pen? Who's scratching?
I'll let you go.
Yeah, that's a cheap pen. Thank you so much for okay. All right, the first time, what did you see?
She gave it to me.
She gave it to me. Did I ask?
Yes.
All right, so was it different the second time?
Yes.
What was different? But she didn't say no. She didn't say stop. She didn't say that's mine. So that means consent, right? But she just gave me 5 seconds to go consent. It's different. Did it feel different?
Yes, ma'am.
It did, didn't it? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Give her one hand. All right. So, you know what? She's kind of cool. Let's give her some cool sapper shades. Yeah. This is how I get people involved, right? Alright, so what we know about consent, in that I was just trying to show you, a lot of times just even because you were with a person previously, don't mean that it automatically gives you the consent. Maybe you wasn't that good and they don't want to be with you, or maybe they changed their mind, or they say, hey, I felt bad about doing it. I know I keep it real. Or maybe they changed their mind and feel like, hey, I don't want to do that again, or I'll change it. And that's their body, and they have the right and the opportunity to be able to do that. So we don't want to just make those kind of assumptions in that. Not implied by manner of dress. I may think that I'm fine and foxy and I got beautiful legs. I didn't go out to the store and say, hey, can you help me find a dress that would help me get raped tonight? No. Right? I bought it because I thought it looked good. Same way with the guy. You got on your muscle shirt and your biking shorts and you going to work out because you comfortable running in them biking shorts and t-shirt, right? Yeah. Did you wear it because you want somebody to come rape you? No. Okay. Next slide. Okay, of course, consent is not if the person is incapacitated. This is a freebie. If they're passed out, they cannot give consent to have sex. So you can't come back and say they didn't say no. If you don't ask the question, you can't get a no. And that's what happens a lot of times with sex. I'm not going to ask because I might be afraid. Real about consent as leaders, even as I'm training leaders, we have to be real because that is an issue. A lot of people don't even know how to ask for a date because this is how y'all do. They don't know how to break up. They don't know how to ask and things like that. And we have to really give you some social skills because what we learn by our young population is this is what they know. And so sometimes they stalking people because they like somebody, but they don't really know how to approach them. And we have to work on that, right? All right, consent must be positive and willful participation. So if I'm touching your terrain features and you touching my terrain features back, that's participation there. Voluntary action, knowledge of the act. All right, next slide. All right. I throw in sexual harassment because remember I talked about the cases and I said 43% incident male victims. Also what they found out is units that had sexual harassment, that females were 6 times more likely to be a victim of sexual assault, right? So when we talk about the continuum of harm, where people telling the jokes and it just escalating and stuff, not amongst you all, right? And that means even when on the college campus, when you out, people starting what they're doing is testing boundaries, telling the kind of jokes and doing those kind of things. Nip that and go say, hey, that ain't appropriate. Next slide. All right, so these are some things that were in our military. I don't have my pointer, but this is military stuff. You see up here it says, we jam harder, penetrate deeper, and dispense longer. That was one of the shirts that one of the flying squadrons, their shirts that they wore here. So we have here, I don't like the term rape, I prefer cuddle with a struggle. But see, it's those kind of mentalities that allow people to go out and rape and can justify, right? And the other thing is what we do is we make person, a lot of the times the things that whether they're racist or sexist things and stuff that, it makes a person not actually be a person. You look at them as more like an object and it makes it easier to go and do things like that. So these are things that they're not acceptable and they promote a lot of those things that allow those type of attitudes to take place. Next slide. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about risk. Next slide, all right? So you're at risk, right? Because most of you all fall in that age category, right? You need to know that it's usually not going to be a stranger that jumps out of the bush and say, hey, I'm going to rape you, right? It's usually someone that you know, okay? Alcohol is involved in 80-90% of the cases, all right? So I know none of you all drink in here, so maybe that won't be an issue. It doesn't mean that alcohol has to be involved. But what we're saying is a lot of the cases that come forth, alcohol is involved on one side or the other, all right? Next slide. All right. So when we talk about risk reduction, when we're talking about in avoiding the alcohol and drug use in those situations, and when I talk about consent, it's about respect. And when we talk about alcohol, that thing is, that person has been drinking, having that respect enough. You know what? I'm going to wait until this is something that you can make in a more sober mind. We know that alcohol lowers your inhibition. How many think that you make better judgment and decisions when you're drunk, when people are drunk? Because y'all never get drunk, so I don't want to put that on you. Do y'all think drunk people make better decisions? Do you?
No, ma'am.
You don't?
No.
Oh, you think they dance better though, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, just to let you all know, alcohol does not make you dance better, right? It just makes you feel comfortable doing the stupid dance. And when you don't have it, give you that liquid courage, they say. All right? That's all it is. It does not jump in your feet and make it do something new. You can do that without it. You just don't have the courage, all right? We also know that a lot of people get drunk and commit suicide, all right? It lowers your inhibitions. So you have to be very, very mindful of that, all right? All right, next, okay. Potential perpetrator indicators, go. All right, so yeah. Remember I said it's not the stranger that jumps out, right? Choose who you go out with carefully and stay with your wingman. Communicate clearly to establish boundaries on what you are and are not okay with, and nip bad behavior in the bud. Plan before you drink and drink with moderation. Never leave your drink unattended. Be alert and aware of your surroundings and listen to your instincts. Have a cell phone handy as much as possible. And I'm going to give you actually a risk reduction thing with the cell phone before I leave here. Next slide. All right. I want to talk about this as we're talking about those that that you need to be mindful of, that are what we call predators or offenders, and they are there to prey on a vulnerable population. What makes you as college students a vulnerable population? Huh? Being young. Because you're young and naive. And you really don't know how much you don't know until you hit about 35 and you look back and you say, wow, right? What was I thinking? But I know we have a 22-year-old and 21-year-old, and they think they know everything. You can't tell them that they're naive. They actually think that we're naive. But trust me, you're young, naive, don't have as much experience. What else? Some of y'all, how many of you all are a long way from home? Okay, long way home from family and friends. How many of you all had girlfriends and boyfriends that you broke up with? I forgot to tell you, from Alabama, sometimes we accent different syllables. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, raise your hand. I'll try to accent another syllable, okay? All right. So even with our airmen in the dorms, a lot of times they're a long way from home. They may have had a breakup with a high school sweetheart. They're away from family. They may not even have a car. You know, they don't really know anybody. They're trying to make friends. That makes you vulnerable, all right? Because you want to connect, you want to link in, you're lonely, all those kind of things. And those that are predators, they want to find out what your vulnerability is, and sometimes they use that to get close to you so that they can take advantage of you. So you need to be mindful of those kind of things. When we look at this in the insider threat, majority of the people are in the green, all right? You know, I always say, even in the military, 95% of the people are not predators. There are some people that what we call, they're in the yellow. They got game is what they call it out there, right? I was talking to some F-tackers and they told me no didn't mean no. No means try harder. No means that's what they've been taught to say, and no meant that they haven't had enough drink, right, to drink. And what I can tell you is that's going to send you to jail, right? So sometimes they have to be educated and they have to be informed is, you know, according to the law and in the military, you can't do this, all right? So that game, all that manipulation that you're doing to get what you want, all right, stop it. All right, and most of them, you start to educate them, inform them, and they're going to move to the green. Some of them going to join those in the red. And those that are in the red, it don't matter what I say or do, they're going to do what they do. Those are the kind of people you want to stay away from, and those who we want to identify and definitely get them out of our military. All right, next slide. All right, so I know you would like to be able to identify. Who can look at a picture and tell me who in this room is a predator or a sexual offender? Can you tell by how they look? Who in here knows who's the offender? Oh, somebody answered a question for me and I didn't give them their gift. Was it? It was you. Did I give you something? You got yours? Okay, I thought it was somebody else. All right. So offenders use sex as a weapon. All right. It's not all about the sex. You know, I'll often talk about my first case here, male victim in the dorms hanging out, drunk, pass out, and wake up to a guy penetrating his anus. And it doesn't even mean that whether he's homosexual, because it's not even about that. Those that are raped or go for males or females. Just recently had a pilot that was a victim as he went TDY, held by gunpoint, forced to perform oral sex, and the two guys also performed anal sex, married with a child, all right? So you need to be mindful. And when you look at our college campuses, and we'll talk about that in the center, all right? But it is about power and control. A lot of times, especially with male victims, you know, hazing is to dehumanize them, to insult them, okay? That's a lot what sexual assault about. It's not about the sex. You can go pay and get you some for free, right? It's not just about the sex, all right? But there is a mentality a lot of times, I'm going to have sex tonight. Now, you can agree to have sex with me or not, but I'm going to have sex tonight, all right? Next slide, all right? These are some warning things that you can look for. Shows hostility towards the opposite sex, lower levels of empathy, hold traditional roles, stereotype, endorse statements used to justify rape. Some have experience of abuse or violence as a child. Some have engaged in adolescent delinquency, have peers who view forced sex as acceptable, have frequent impersonal sexual experiences. Next slide. All right, so this is something I need a volunteer. Wow, did you already get a gift yet?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so let me try somebody else. I like to have a guy. All right, come on down. You sure you want to be a demonstrator with me?
Yes, absolutely. No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. All right, so tell me your name.
Quebec.
Quebec. Where you from?
Seattle.
Seattle, Washington. I went there for the Junior Olympics in track one year, and I really enjoyed it and went over to Canada. All right. So one of the things that we want to talk about is the 5 eyes of offender behavior. And I want you to be able to look out for this. So the first thing, do you mind if I touch you today? It doesn't matter? All right. The colonel may get you. So don't touch me back. Then you'll be in trouble, right? All right. So one of the first things that you want to look out is what we call invasion, right? So it's like, hey. Oh, wow. Oh. He's enjoying this. So what do I mean by invasion when I'm talking about invasion? Invading their personal space, yes. Making them feel uncomfortable. Anybody else? Okay. So when we talk about invasion, this is the way of testing boundaries, okay? It may be through touch, all right? You know, I might start off and touching the back. Next thing I know, I may go a little bit farther. Next thing I know, I may be popping them on the bottom or whatever. It can be through texting. It can be through emails. You know, they start off with 20 questions. What's your favorite color? And by the 4th question, are you a virgin, right? They didn't even get to the 20th. You know, sometimes that's the first question. I don't know. But what are they doing when they do those kind of things? They're testing what? Boundaries. They're trying to see how far I can go and how far I can push. You know, I may start to ask about, say, hey, do you have a boyfriend? And how long y'all been dating? Oh, I heard you talking about y'all broke up, you know, and you kind of sad. Maybe come out of the room and make you a spaghetti dinner or something, right? Right. So, invasion, you know. Now, they might just be from the South, and, you know, we hug and talk to other people and stuff, but a lot of times you can tell the difference, all right? And those that are trying to test the boundaries, all right? Okay, and then the second eye is ignoring. So this time, wait, don't enjoy it so much, okay? All right. Hey. Don't be so picky, or, you know, don't be so sensitive. Right? Okay. You can come back now. All right. So the second eye, when you talk about offending behavior, they're going to ignore your nose, all right? And they may make it seem like you're being so sensitive or you just, you know, whatever. But they're going to ignore, you know, your verbal as well as your nonverbal cues. When he moved away, is that a way of saying no? Yes, it's no. But me, in that, I'm going to ignore that. And you know what I find out sometimes? A lot of you all want to know that, ignore that. It's interesting. My boss told me next Christmas I have to write a book on what not to bring to Christmas parties for gag gifts and all, because this year was really bad. So in one unit, they had 3 individuals. See, one person took a picture of their gag gifts of their bottom with no clothes on, and that was their gift. Another one brought this apron with a huge penis on it. And then 2 of them brought the blow-up Fatty Patty dolls. Yes, with all that, right? And so you had enlisted officers as well as spouses that was there at this Christmas party. You know, in this day and age, you know, that's not appropriate. And what kind of climate was it that made those individuals feel comfortable that they can do that? But I wasn't there, but people came to complain, to tell me about it. And then I also had in December at their Christmas potluck in the middle of the day with officers enlisted and spouses, a civilian bought the gift of a penis ring. And he gave it to, and the airman got it, and her face turned red, right? You know, and talking about, he's an older kind of guy too, so really creepy to me. You know, it's like, really? I said, you know, in the unit, the other unit, the flying squadron, I could say, okay, those are young people trying to be funny and stuff like that, but the penis ring, you know, oh, okay. So, and I learned about this because I'm teaching the key spouses, and one of the spouses raised her hand to tell me about it. I'm like, okay, what unit? I said, okay, everybody that was watching, what did they say? What did they do? She said, well, you can tell people were uncomfortable, but guess what? Do you think anybody said anything? Well, one person did say, ooh, look like we need more Sapper Down Day training. Yeah. So this is a new airman in the unit, right? So, of course, you know I'm calling the commander. And I say this to you because just as you see him and he may not know how to say, I need you to also be able to say something when you recognizing that things are inappropriate or uncomfortable, right? And so the commander tells me, the squadron commander, because I call him, you know, and everything, and he says, well, I called the airman in and the civilian and the airman, and I asked her if she felt sexually harassed, and she said no. And I told the civilian, and he apologized. He said we told him to bring gifts for people over 18, and then he said, and we gave her another gift. Is that good? And I'm like, wow, what are we teaching squadron commanders these days? Wow, I'm actually failing at my job. So I said, well, sir, most of the time airmen don't get a chance to, coming out of tech school, when they see a colonel or somebody in the office, it's because they're in trouble, right? And you call her in and you asking her if she felt sexually harassed, she's going to say everything is fine because that's what they say to senior levels. And I said, even if she says she did, it's inappropriate and it's not acceptable, even if you bought her a new gift, right? And, you know, I kept thinking, what is this guy's thing that he says, oh, get a gift for somebody over 18 so I'm going to go buy a sex toy and bring to the potluck. Yeah, creepy, right? So, you know, as I began to say, he says, well, I tried to do it in private. I said, I know, we praise in public, right, and correct them in private. But in those situations where it's everybody, you have to, and I say, if you're afraid as the leader to say something, don't expect your airmen to say anything either, all right? You have to be able to stand up. And you all that are future leaders, you have to say something. You can't allow those kind of things on, because if there is a victim, they're not coming to you, because you have set a climate and an environment that is conducive for all type of behaviors, okay? All right, so ignore instincts, all right? So instincts, he probably is feeling she's a little, you know, making me uncomfortable and creepy, all right? But because I'm the colonel's spouse, he's not going to really, he's, oh, but I know it's the colonel's spouse, and she okay, and she nice. So when we talk about instincts, one is your instinct. You feel something, but sometimes you won't respond to it because of the person's rank or status or because they are a friend or something like that, all right? The other thing is that predators have the instincts to find those people that are vulnerable, all right? So I noticed that you had a breakup with your boyfriend. I know you're vulnerable when you have a breakup, right? And so I'm going to take and I'm going to pray on that, right? Because I'm going to invite you over for a spaghetti dinner and take your mind off it. Let's go for a run, right? So I can work my way in there. Instincts. They go to places. Where do you think that predators go to find vulnerable people? Bars. Bars. That's right. I always ask my class, what do y'all think the number one bar is that I get a lot of our survivors from? They're like, which one? I say, the country bar on the Navy side. I get a lot of victims out of that, right? So places where alcohol is. In the dorms, why? Single, lonely people, don't have cars sometimes, all right? So you got to be aware of that. Even be aware of your own vulnerabilities, all right? And you all be aware and help each other out. All right, so intoxication. All right, so alcohol is the number one drug of choice that is used, okay? And a lot of times, if a person trying to prey on somebody, they're drinking, and they're going to be drinking really less than what I'm drinking, what I have that person drinking, okay? That happens a lot of times because they're going to use alcohol as their cover. They're trying to say I was drunk, but you and I both know if he's really that drunk, ain't much happening, right? There's not much happening if he's really that drunk, right? All right. And also, alcohol will be used to take away the credibility of a survivor, right? You know, it makes them not believable. Sometimes your recall and your memory is not going to be as good, and so it makes it hard for you to testify, okay, against that person, all right? All right, and ultimately, the thing is, after I've got you drunk and all, then I'm going to take care of you, and guess what? I'm going to get you home. Oh, I got him. I'm going to get him home safely because I want to get him isolated, and I want to get him alone. He already trusts me. He already has that relationship and everything with me. And that's what makes, even especially in the military, sexual trauma very difficult. We say we are family, that we take care of each other and everything. And so I trust, even if I am drunk or whatever that, if I can't trust you in my most vulnerable time, how can I trust you to have my back at war? Okay. And so that's the challenge that we face, okay? amongst MJ. And I get them isolated, and what you don't know is I have all kind of signs under me. He don't get a chance to see it until I pull the coat off when we get along, and you see liar, cheater, rapist, you know, all those kind of things. Because here I look really good, and I got all of you convinced, right? And so I prayed upon him to get him along in those situations. So those are kind of 5 eyes of what you would see in offender behavior. Let's give my volunteer a hand. Yes, you can have a cup. And we definitely have to give you a back scratcher. All right, and just because of all that weight, I'm going to give you a heating pad and an ice pack. Next slide. All right. So you could just kind of see what I call the insider threat. And you have to be able to see these people as an insider threat, because the impact of sexual assault or even an attempt is devastating mentally, emotionally, and it is long-term effect, all right? And so that is a threat into this person being as effective as we need them to be, all right? You have to be able to note that and understand when we have any threat, what we want to do, we want to defend ourselves, we want to protect ourselves, all right, as well as those that work with us. Next slide. All right, so I do want to talk about a lot of times what we call serial predators. When they did a college study with the LLAB study, there was 120 men freely admit acts of rape, none reported convicted prosecutor, okay? They had an average of 6 victims per rapist, okay? As they were asked, and they weren't going to be able, when they asked the question, have you forced someone to have sex with you by doing these kind of things? And they said yes, right? And what you all have to know is, being paying attention, is when they're preying on you, and the guy is on the video and he's talking about, yeah, you know, we take the young freshmen that are coming in, you know, we prep them and bait them all week, invite them to the fraternity party, you know, I call them and say sweet, nice things to them. And then at the party, what they had is they had a bowl of fruit punch. Tastes real sweet with a lot of alcohol, and they have keg. They have a room designated in the house and keep feeding you drinks. And you know, you're from Alabama, you don't even know how much you can handle, you know, until they get you. And then he said, you know, and took her up, and she tried to resist, and I just took and put it down, just held her, pushed her down. But the way he was showing is, he actually, this was a pre-law student, matter of fact, that, you know, faces good, that he actually put his arm across her throat there, right? And so he says, then she just stopped. She was ready. And he said, what did you do? He said, I effed her. And then what did she do? Then she got dressed and left. And we have so many young men and women that have been victims on our college campuses, and they do not report them, okay? And that's what they do. And I remember that in college. The first year, they was helping us carry our luggages up to the dorms. When I became a sophomore, wasn't nobody at my dorm. The guys stay over at the freshman dorm, right? Because those are the fresh meat. You got to know that. Not just for yourself, but you got to know that for your buddy too, all right? Same thing in the Navy study. So it doesn't matter whether it's a college campus or away. Next slide. All right, let's, you can get me to the video. We almost there. I keep looking for a pocket here, and I don't, because I always go over time.
It's 8:54 now.
What time was it?
What time?
So I'll go through this and I'll run through the last slide because I do want to give you guys a.
I don't believe that I'm a pathological sex offender. At the same time, I raped. I met her at the bar. She was from England and had come to New York for a short time to tour with a musical review or something. When I walked in, I knew I wanted this girl. I wanted to have sex that night, and she looked like an inviting prospect. It was clear she'd been drinking before I arrived, and we had 3 or 4 drinks together. Our thighs rubbed together, my arm brushed against her breast. I was getting to her. We drank some more, and I grew confident that I was not going home alone that night. She was staying at a friend's place downtown, and I assumed that when we left together, it meant she was going over to my place. Once I had her out of the bar, she had no friends to help her, no one to call, nowhere to go except where I wanted her to go. We started walking, and she asked, "Where are we going?" I said, "Just walking." Knowing that we were headed in the direction of my apartment, we would stop sporadically and make out. During one heavy session, I said to her, "Come back to my place." She refused. I said, "What do you mean, no? This is New York City. You don't leave a bar with a guy and not sleep with him. Come on, this isn't England, this is a big city. This is how we do things." She still refused. but I could tell it was influencing her with that ridiculous line. We got up to my apartment and I began kissing her, but now she was not responding like she did on the street. I asked her, "What's the matter?" She just stared blankly past me. I began to touch her more aggressively, squeezing her breasts, rubbing the inside of her thighs. Still no reaction. I felt like I was fondling a rag doll. Not that I cared, I didn't need any response to get what I wanted. I tried to take her top off, and she locked her arms to her sides. I pulled and forced her arms until I got it off. I eased her down on the bed. She did not resist me, but moved like dead weight, staring straight ahead and grinding her teeth furiously. Ugh, what a repulsive sound, I said. Not a word was spoken during the struggle. Just me trying to get her legs apart, and her trying to get them back together. It was primal. Sex lasted about a minute or two, and when it was over, I had the familiar aftertaste left by unsatisfying sex. My coercive power, which had been so relentless 5 minutes before, was spent. The manipulative force I had used left me empty. I didn't want this girl sleeping in my bed. I also didn't want to walk her home. She sat up in bed. She wanted to leave, but now it was 4 in the morning. I couldn't let her go alone, even if she did know how to get back. "Just sleep over," I said reluctantly. "You can leave when it's light out." She did sleep over, didn't stop grinding her teeth the entire night. When we got up the next morning, I insisted she wait and walk out with me. The last thing I said to her when we hit the streets was, "You have to walk that way to get back to your friend's house." I raped a woman.
If we were to assign a motto to Jack or to many men like him, it would sound something like this: "I'm going to have sex tonight. If it's consensual, that's fine, but I'm going to have sex tonight." What we heard Jack describe was a well thought out, well calculated, and manipulative plan for how he was going to accomplish his goal. Whether she consented, which he tells us he knew that she did not, didn't matter to him. You can tell from his story that what she said, what she did, and what she wanted didn't matter. He was going to take sex from her. Consider if we had only heard her side of the story. What if she told us that she met him at a bar, drank with him, walked to his apartment with him, had some consensual sexual contact with him, and even spent the night with him? It's very unlikely that we would be seeing a successful rape charge to come from those facts, even though he tells us that all of those things were true, and he raped her in spite of them. It's important for us to know that this is not about drunk sex, and there's no such thing as accidental rape. Offenders such as this one premeditate their crimes, and they choose their victims intentionally. They also use alcohol to very intentionally help disarm their victims, and they ignore the signals of non-consent. You also heard Jack describe how the victim acted once she realized what Jack was about to do to her. She was non-responsive when he tried to kiss her. He described how she just stared past him and didn't respond as he squeezed her breasts and rubbed the inside of her thigh. She tried to keep him from pulling her blouse off, but he ignored her. During the rape, she ground her teeth together, stared blankly past him, and did not respond or participate. What Jack describes here is a common response to trauma, a frozen fright response. Jack told us how terrifying it must have been for this young woman from a different country to be forced into a sexual act by someone she had just met. Jack said that for all she knew, she could have just as easily been killed by him. You might find yourself saying, if that was me, I would never have done that, or I would have done this. We respond like this in part because none of us wants to believe that this could ever happen to us. So sometimes we judge what the victim did or didn't do. We play Monday morning quarterback. The truth is that no one knows how they will respond to a traumatic situation, such as sexual assault, until they are faced with it in their own life. Beware of this tendency to judge victims for what you think they did wrong. What matters is that we understand who put them in the situation and caused the trauma in the first place. The offender. In this case, it was Jack.
Thank you. How many of you all think it was rape? if you had heard the story, and she said, I went to the bar, I drank, I went to his room, how many of you think that there would have been any conviction to come out of there? Because that's exactly what we look at and judge. And what I'm trying to do is get you all to see that is the actual statement and everything from somebody that raped. And that's how they operate. They're predatory, he baited her, he did everything, he pushed boundaries, he got her isolated. You see the 5 eyes being followed? Intoxication, and then what? He got her alone. All right? And even as you saw when I talked about, you know, I'm touching your terrain features, you touching them back, that's a sign of consent. Did she do that? No. Did it really matter? But she didn't say no. She didn't kick. She didn't scream. Did she? So that means yes, right? She was resistant. Okay, next time. I'm going the wrong way. I just want to say these things: be alert, safe, assertive, prepared. Go to the next slide. I do want to just talk about, I often say, be a real wingman, ask, act, and intervene if necessary, okay? So be a good friend. There are techniques that you can use, and I won't go into details, but sometimes it's being direct, or you may be indirect, ask a friend or authority figure to intervene. You can say, hey, bartender, I noticed this person, or anything like that, all right? Or go to a senior leader or go get the person's friend. That's what we call indirect distraction, you know. You tell the drunk person, hey, they towing your car, right? And they go run out there, or hey, let's get something to eat. Drunk people are usually hungry. If alcohol is involved or things like that. She's got an Adam's apple, so you don't want to bother with her. But create a distraction. Somebody just got that, right? Protocol, seek the help of your chain of command or law enforcement or somebody like that. Next slide. All right. Post-sexual assault, I just want to say, next slide. All right. Immediately follow a sexual assault, get help, be careful not to destroy evidence, seek medical attention, continue reporting assault. In the Air Force, we have restricted, unrestricted, and independent. You have options. Here's what you don't want to do. Don't shower, change your clothes, clean your room. So even if you do those things, you still can report, all right? Because what you don't know is there's a lot of evidence they can get, even if you have showered, if it's within certain days or whatever, right? But what we want you to do is not do that. Don't brush your teeth, eat or drink, or urinate if you can. All right, next slide. All right, these are things that are on base, and we have a DOD safe helpline where you can chat, text, or whatever. Next slide. Next slide. It even has a self-care plan, local resources that are here, the Sexual Abuse Treatment Center, as well as the Vet Center that is here. Next slide. This is what I really want to talk to you all about, and this is what we call the Circle of Six. It's a free app that you can download. And what you do is you put your 6 trusted friends. If you don't have 6 friends, put the same person 6 times. That's fine. And if you don't have that, you can put Captain Spots in there 6 times, right? Yeah, woohoo! Basically, with that app, this app is quick and discreet. Next slide. So what happens is, if you hit the little thing, so you don't have to dial in the numbers, you hit the little thing that's like a phone, and it sends a message to say, come get me, I need help getting home, and it sends the GPS coordinates where you are. If you hit the button that's where the phone is, you know, you with a creep, and you don't really know how to tell that girl, I'm not interested in you. You just hit that button, and it'll send a message to your friend, say, call and pretend you need me, I need an interruption, right? Don't do that in Captain Spot's meetings, but, all right. The other one is if you're in a relationship and you need some issues about information about relationships and how things are going and how to handle things, you can hit that button. The exclamation point has the national hotline number in there, and then you can add a local number. So like you can add the SARC's number from us, right? Okay, next slide. All right, so see, I actually got through it. I know I'm a few minutes over, but I'm open to your questions that you might have for me right now. Yes?
Man, I'm gonna get involved. Like, when we're talking about consent, what happens if we have 2 intoxicated participants, and then one of them feels uneasy after the event?
Okay, thank you. Great question. Usually I let the audience give me some response first, but I'll go ahead and try to I can't tell you exactly what would happen in that situation. I don't know, Liz, but what I will say is you put your hands in the hands of a jury to decide whether one person or another was able to give consent. Because just if they both drink 4 drinks, it may impact each one of them differently, and I don't know exactly how that law. What I do know is that our investigators are very good, and there are other things they look for rather than just that both of them had sex, right? So I can't necessarily answer. I would say don't put yourself in those positions though for us to make that determination. And either one of them could come and report, or they both can report. But I often say, you know, in these incidents, one of the things that I want to do is that we don't have alleged victims or subjects, right? Because nobody wins in that situation. Nobody is a winner. I mean, it's quite devastating, and neither do units or our Air Force win in those situations. Did I answer your question? All right. I'm not the law, so I can't say definitively. Any other questions? Can I get my class leader down here? Please, class leader. I want to make sure that I give him one of our t-shirts that say, "Can I kiss you?" And for the great job that you've done back here, great job. We give him a "Can I Kiss You" t-shirt. All right. Thank you, Captain Scott.